Greetings all, FerrariMan601 here. Welcome back to another F-Reacts video, this time of the 2019 Austrian Grand Prix. The big talking point out of Austria is, for the third race in succession, we are left speaking not about the action on track, but rather we're left speaking about stewards and anonymous bureaucrats and big government, and all sorts of other bureaucracy and time-wasting associated with Formula One. And moreover, we're left speaking about the abject and blatant hypocrisy that Formula One and its governing body have been exhibiting this season. We all know the story. Canada, Sebastian Vettel wins the race, and then gets the win taken away from him because he went off track without making contact with another car. France, Daniel Ricciardo gets docked points and positions because he went off track without making contact with another car. And today in Austria, Max Verstappen makes a pass in turn 3 on Charles Leclerc on lap 69 of 71 for the win. In this incident, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc make contact. Max Verstappen was the attacking car. He had the inside line. He banged front wheels with Charles Leclerc. Leclerc was punted off the road thereby, but no damage to either car. Both drivers were able to finish the Grand Prix, and Verstappen crossed the line first, and the stewards have now told us that Verstappen indeed does get to keep that victory that he rightfully earned on track. I am happy with this decision because I don't believe that we should get into a situation where we consistently see that the result at the checkered flag is not the actual result of the Grand Prix. To me, that is a public relations disaster. That's an absolute biblical level of catastrophe for any sport, where the result that you see when the end of competition is called is not the official result. When that happens on a consistent basis, that means that your sport and your rules are fundamentally broken, and if not altered, if not heavily revised, the sport will die. That is the situation that I believe Formula One to be in, particularly after Canada and France. Here in Austria, they allow the result on track to stand, which I say is good. Yes, I know that many of you are right now writing very angry comments now underneath this video saying, well, of course, you're going to be biased. You're Ferrari, man. Well, the beneficiary of a penalty on Max Verstappen would have been Ferrari and Charles Leclerc. And I'm not saying that Charles Leclerc deserved to win this race. He drove brilliantly today. He had the fastest car in qualifying. He took pole position. However, a combination of Ferrari strategy and perhaps just trying to manage fuel meant that he had no response to Max Verstappen at the end when the Dutchman was on an absolute charge, making up from a terrible start in what ultimately turned out to be, in my opinion, the drive of the year thus far, and it may well be the drive of the year on the balance of the rest of the championship. It means today that we have the first race win by a car other than a Mercedes in 2019, and that's good for the sport, indeed. Now, those of you who are going to be further agitated by me, listen here. If the FIA wants to play the game of when a car goes off track and there's a change in position, or there's not a change in position and a car goes off track, or if, let's say, there's contact between cars during a pass for position, if the FIA wants to take a hard line on this, so be it, but be consistent with it. Sebastian Vettel goes off track in front of Lewis Hamilton in Canada. No contact between them, no change in position, but they take his win away for it. Daniel Ricciardo goes off track. There are changes of position there in France. They take away his points for it. They move him back down the finishing order after the fact retroactively. Today, Max Verstappen passes Charles Leclerc. It's a pass for the victory. There's a change in position. Charles Leclerc goes off track necessarily. There's contact between both cars. And then the FIA doesn't penalize Verstappen. Again, I'm saying that that is the correct decision to make because this is racing after all, and we need to allow drivers to race. Because as Max Verstappen said immediately after the race, if you're not allowed to race, why even bother turning up? So I agree with the call. However, I do not agree with the overall context and overall complexion of the decision-making process by the FIA in their governance of Formula One, going back retroactively and altering race results. In this situation, they made the right decision. However, they have consistently not made the right decision, and they are now consistently inconsistent. 2 races ago in Canada, if you go off track in front of another car, you lose a race win. Last week in France, you go off track while trying to gain position, you lose the points that you scored. And today, you run into another car passing for the win, and you keep your win. So where's your consistency, FIA? This is why I and many other people have been saying for the past couple of years now that the FIA, the governing body, and the general complexion of the rules, how the rules are ratified and implemented and enforced, is ultimately what is going to kill this sport. Because if you're going to be racing, you need to be out there with a reasonable expectation that whatever you do, it's going to be determined by the finishing order of you relative to other cars, rather than saying, okay, well, I finished in P1 for argument's sake, but now we have to go and we have to plead our case to the nameless bureaucrats in FIA headquarters in France to make sure that everything is actually going to be good. I mean, I hope I wasn't a little bit too enthusiastic with this one maneuver. I hope I didn't use too much throttle because the Greenpeace police are going to be out there and sanction me or something. No. Obviously, I'm using hyperbole here, but the point is, racing is good, and today in Austria we got racing. Undoubtedly, it's been the best race of the season. But if you want to have a governing body, if you want to have a rule set, if you want to have a sanctioning body and stewards that are going to be respected, you need to be consistent. And today in Austria we saw the ultimate inconsistency. I would argue that the infraction that was alleged to have been committed by Max Verstappen was far more egregious than anything Sebastian Vettel did in Canada or anything Daniel Ricciardo did in France. However, those two men were penalized, and Max Verstappen has not been. Again, that is the correct decision in my view. However, the inconsistency is there, and Pandora's box has well and truly been opened if you're the FIA. You take a win away from somebody because they don't make contact with a car, but you allow somebody else to punt somebody off the circuit and you let them keep the win. All right. How is this game played? How is a driver supposed to be out there and understand the rules of engagement? They're not. They're simply not. Effectively, the drivers now know that they are mere peons in terms of their position relative to the stewards. It depends on the mood, basically. Depends on the mood of the FIA on the day, whether or not somebody is allowed to keep a position, no matter how they've gained it or defended it. Good to know. Until next time, thank you all very much for listening. Ferrari Man 601 saying thanks, and of course, we will see you soon.